confidence seems to be a big thing heading into the playoffs. You've been in a lot of playoff series. How much does it matter how well you're playing at the end of the season, going into the playoffs or not?
Well, I think that varies when you have a team that's been together for a long time. You have a little bit more room to maybe not play as well to end the season, but you feel confident once the playoffs start. But for a group like ourselves, being young, new coaching staff, we want to play well, but we also want to learn from our mistakes when we do lose. And I thought last week was a perfect example of that, being able to win at home and then going to Cleveland on a back-to-back winning. And then we didn't show in Washington, and then we had a bounce-back game in Milwaukee. And so we want to get better, and we want to win. And so we have 3 games before the playoffs start.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you thought from the defensive effort from the team in that game against Milwaukee? Because clearly you were not pleased with how it went defensively against Washington. How did you think the defense performed against Milwaukee?
I thought the defense was really, really good. It was carryover from our practice that we had in D.C. before we flew to Milwaukee. I thought the guys did a great job. I've said this publicly. I thought our practice the spirit was high. We were in a good place. We all understood that we didn't play well or coach well. And so we wanted to get better, and we had an opportunity to do that against the champs. And I thought our defense, the execution of the game plan was really, really high.
Jason Kidd joining us here on the KNC Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan. Jason, we had Brian Scalabrine on about 2 hours ago, and he gave us a little story about one time you passed to him, he didn't do what you expected, and you stared through him, and then later you told him, I've already made that decision for you. All you have to do is react. And I'm very curious about this because it sounds awesome. Like, for one, that sounds awesome to be able to say something like that, but at the same time, it must have been comforting for him to know he just physically had to react and do his job. What was your mindset in saying that, and do you think Luka needs to tell his teammates that sometimes?
Well, with Scal, and Scal knows all the stories, and he's a great teammate. I love playing with Scal. I thought he was running. He might have maybe came up short, and I had already determined that he was going to continue to keep going. And I had made the play before he probably even thought about running. So, and then I get the turnover. So he doesn't get affected with any mistakes. But I wanted to just let him know that he needed to keep running, because anytime I get it, I know with his athleticism, if he's running, it's a win for us. And so I shared my thought. I think he got it, and he actually played great for us. But Scal was always someone that you can tell the truth to of what you're thinking, because he was all about the team.
Not that you ever would, but did you ever want to go to a stat keeper after the game and be like, I know you got to do what you got to do, but 2 of those turnovers should not have been on me?
Yes. There was plenty of times, not just turnovers. I learned really quickly that charges were turnovers too. And so I wanted, to say, hey, if I'm getting turnovers for someone dropping the ball, then maybe a charge shouldn't be a turnover.
To go back to that real quick, Jason, though, like when Luka has the ball, I mean, he has to see the play develop in his mind too, and he has to recognize what's going on. How important, how much trust do his teammates have to have in him that he's making that right decision in that moment?
Well, I think you can see guys are getting used to playing. When you talk about Reggie and Josh, Dorian has played with them for a couple of years. DP has, so most of the guys have. But I think just being patient, because he's going to make the read. And sometimes, you have to wait a little longer, because he's going to wait till the last moment to see what window is open. If there's a layup, he's going to take it. If there's a lob, he's going to give it. And then if there's the corner 3, he's going to be able to find you. And so with all that being said, you have to be patient. But Luka has been an incredible quarterback for us all season. And he has a gift. He's special. And he's playing at a high level for us right now.
Head coach Jason Kidd joining us right now. Jason, I know you were a great defender in your time, and I can just go to baseball, and I was a pitcher, and at times, like facing a guy like Roy Halladay, guys would come back after 2 or 3 innings. He had just mowed down the lineup, and You could tell from the guys, they're kind of talking in the dugout, we're pretty screwed here. He's on his game, and there's nothing we can do. As a defender, I'm just looking at Luka recently. Like, he took Giannis, they made switches, and he kind of made a 3 over Giannis, drove to the basket, made a great dish. What is it like a defender when you're kind of asked to slow down a guy or stop a guy and you can't do it? What do you do going back to the sidelines, or as now a coach? What are you listening to your players when a great player is doing something? You're trying to do everything to stop them, but you can't.
You asked, do you have any other suggestions to try? I think when you look at what Luka has done here, he's seen all the great players. When you brought up Giannis, LeBron, guys that, he's going one-on-one. It's hard to guard him one-on-one. It's hard to guard any great player one-on-one. And he understands the reads when he does have 2 on him. But I think, like you said, when you walk into the bench, you go, well, he's on his A game today. We're just going to have to hope that we catch him next time and he's on his C game if we want any chance to win.
Now, since we're talking about Luka so much, I know Luka said he doesn't particularly care. I'm curious, do you care at all about maybe some of the lack of MVP chatter that he gets nationally? Everybody knows he's great, but he hasn't pushed up this season into that top group. Does that surprise you, or do you care about such things?
No, I'm surprised that he's not being recognized, higher on that list of what he's done this whole season. He's put his team as high as 3rd in the Western Conference, and then also just the stat line of what he's been doing on a nightly basis. But I think I'm with him. Sometimes, you have to just accept that they're going to talk about other players, but that doesn't stop you from being great. And he's done that for us, all season. And I think at the end of the day, it's about winning a championship, and that's what he's focused on. And so we're excited for this next season to start, and that being the playoffs. But we have 3 games to go to sharpen our tools, so we're excited. But I truly believe for the next 10 years or longer, he's going to win multiple MVPs.
What is Luka better at now that you get to see him every day than you realized coaching against him or seeing him from another perspective?
It's just his tempo. It's unbelievable, the tempo that he has. It's hard to speed him up. He has seen every defense, boxing one. When you talk about taking the ball to hit, taking the ball out of his hands, just trusting his teammates at a very high level that they're going to make the right play. To be able to see that on a daily basis is incredible, because when a star player feels like he has to make the play himself, you can see, high-risk turnovers. But he makes a simple play and lets his teammates do the rest.
When you talk about that next season, going into the playoffs, 3 more regular season games, and I certainly understand the focus is on winning these games, or a lot of this part of the conversation isn't going to matter in controlling what you can control, but do you get the sense that the team, or do you watch what Golden State, what Denver, what Utah, what Minnesota are doing as well, since that will obviously affect y'all going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think for us, we've talked as a team. We want to win all 3 games. We want to get better, and then we can't worry about what Golden State does. We don't control that. We don't control what Denver does or Utah, and so come April 10th, when that game is over against the Spurs, we've played all 3, and our seeding will be what it is, and we have to then change gears and get ready for our next opponent. But we don't know who that is today. But the big thing is for us to understand that we can't control what those other teams do. We can only control what's in front of us, and that's our effort and energy in executing the game plan.
Man, that's something that I keep going back to, Jason. It was the Boston game. They cut away to you talking to your team, and I wouldn't say that this team is like full of experienced, seasoned veterans, but they're also not young. They're kind of in that in-between phase with a lot of talent. But you kept giving the message of stay the course. Like, I know this hasn't been easy, but this is an interesting thing as a coach to try and like connect with the team and understand where they are in that moment. And even Dwight Powell told us, like, it does help so much to have you as that present voice in that moment.
Well, in that Boston game, I just knew I played plenty of games in the 90s and the 80s, in the sense it was 88 to 90 and you win. It was just a grinded out defensive struggle, and I just try to put myself in their shoes of, like, I would like to hear someone tell me, just stay the course, that we're doing the right thing, that it's not 120 to 115. And so that's what I was saying to the guys, like, just stay the course, we're doing everything right. Just understand it's not easy to win here, and those guys they do all the work. I'm just there to try to help guide them, and they did a great job staying the course and finding a way to win. And understand that was one of our big wins of the season was in Boston.
Jason, I'm going to go back to your career versus Luka's career, just because you handled the ball so much and Luka handles the ball so much. And I know that you would make some crazy passes that would work out and some crazy passes that would result into turnovers. And it seemed like when you came back to Dallas.
Not his fault. We established some of those were not his fault.
Definitely Scal's fault.
And when you came back to Dallas, I would say you had less turnovers and still making the same assists. When did you find that balance in your career, and then maybe even in the playoffs, of, yes, this pass, I can make it and it can get there, versus the risk-reward factor just isn't there?
Yeah, I think during the season or in practice, you have high risk, high reward, and during the season you're going to probably have some high risk and high reward, and you're going to have some turnovers. But I think when you understand the difference of when the playoffs, because each possession we can say that it means something. When you stop a run or you continue a run or you start a run, is, when you don't turn the ball over and you're connecting the dots, it puts your team in a good position offensively to do something special. And also it helps your defense because you can set your defense. And so you tend to probably, back off of the high risk pass in the playoffs. But understanding in the season, you're going to see, some of those high risk, and some are completed and some aren't. But now as a coach, I can say I've seen those passes, so I don't get upset. I enjoy seeing the imagination of our players of taking some of those risks.
Jason, I was up in the media box during Game 5 against the Heat in the NBA Finals, and when you and Jet hit those threes, the arena was quiet for a second while the ball was in the air, and then once it hit, it erupted. It was amazing. One of the greatest moments I've ever experienced as a fan. And I texted down to Sean Heath, y'all's PA announcer, and I said, you must be loving your job right now. And he's like, I don't have to do anything. The fans are doing it all for us. They know when to do everything. And I've always, like, the fans kind of affected the game a little bit. And last year, Mike was there whenever it was Game 3 against the Clippers, and the arena was terribly loud. Like, he said he had a migraine after it was all said and done with. And I just kind of, from your mouth to the listeners, to the fans out there, whenever playoff time comes, what do you want from them? How can they contribute to that arena?
Well, they've done a great job this season in helping us have home court. And we're going to need their energy, and we're going to need it, throughout, not just one game, but the whole series. And so it's always been a great place to play, being a Mav, being a player, understanding that we have home court, that our fans are there to support us. And we feed off of that. And so we're going to need that for the playoffs.